Here at the Floyd County Elections Office, officials have spent nearly their entire day recounting over 8,000 early voting ballots. The officials told us they decided to recount all of the early voting ballots because that's the batch that was missing the 2,700, which have since been found. They say they're not sure if the problem was caused by a human error or if it involved some type of computer error as well, but they say it may have derived from a scanning issue. They say one of their scanners at a polling location glitched early on in the election process, and they suspect that's where the error may have happened, but they say that's where the investigation will start. But they say first things first is to go ahead and rescan all of these thousands of ballots and make sure that number is up to date.
Our first step is to handle what's going on right now, to do the recount. Definitely the next step is to get a message out to our citizens to say we're going to make this right by them.
They brought in another Dominion voting machine to rescan the ballots. One board member said the new Dominion machine was only brought in to speed up the process. We know a box of around 5,000 ballots was taken from the location where a scanner malfunctioned during early voting. Those ballots were moved into the elections office. The question that's on the table now is, how did half of those 5,000 get counted while the other half didn't? Some suspect it could have been a poll worker not doing their job properly.
I am concerned going forward. We still don't know right now whether it was an issue with the software or whether it was an issue with the people running the software, but neither option is acceptable, and it shouldn't be acceptable to the Floyd County voter. So I'm hopeful that we're able to isolate the problem, figure out exactly what it is, but it's most important that we don't repeat it. We have a big election on January 5th, so we better get it right.
While investigators work to uncover what happened, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger has called on the county elections director to step down. Conrad told us she can't say if that will happen, but the board will meet this Thursday to discuss this issue. This is a deep red county, and the majority of the ballots found were cast for Trump. Elections officials insist that these updated numbers will not affect the overall results. But one poll watcher from Gwinnett County told NTD if there are a handful of relatively small mistakes like this one in Floyd County that go unnoticed, it could pile up to be a major problem, with just a 14,000 vote margin between Trump and Biden. Floyd County will finalize its results on Wednesday along with the rest of Georgia. All recounts must be finished by Wednesday night. Reporting by Melina Weiskup in Rome, Georgia.
Our reporter Melina also said she's noticed the Biden campaign is keeping a close eye on the media during this recount process. A Biden campaign representative was present today at the Floyd County Elections Office. She told NTD she's making sure the media is clear on Biden's statement that this recount is not going to change anything. She also added the Biden team sent out helpers to make sure the media isn't reporting anything they deem inaccurate. Melina said there was a young helper with the Biden team at the Gwinnett County polling site last night as well. But the Georgia Secretary of State's office said that Fayette County has also found over 2,700 votes that were not counted. This is the second county in Georgia to report thousands of missing votes. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court just rejected a lawsuit from Trump's campaign. It alleged the state violated laws with the way they dealt with ballot monitors. In a 5-2 decision, the Pennsylvania court ruled that the only thing the state law requires is for the observers to be allowed in the room where the ballots are counted. A Trump campaign observer, Jeremy Mercer, said he couldn't see the signature declarations or other markings, but the court ruled that he did not need to see that information. According to the court, the ballot observers in Philadelphia had no right to stand at any particular distance away from election workers. They said it's up to the counties to determine where the poll watchers will stand. And Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says the Trump campaign would like to get the case in Pennsylvania to the Supreme Court, and that they're willing to lose cases in a bid to push them there. He also says he believes they've collected more than enough evidence in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia to take the cases to the Supreme Court, and said the one in Michigan is already drafted and ready to go. And a whistleblower alleges in an affidavit that Smartmatic's voting systems were designed to manipulate votes, and claims that they witnessed it firsthand. They also claim that Dominion Voting Systems uses the same software.
Trump campaign lawyer Sidney Powell on Monday released an affidavit from an alleged whistleblower. They claim to have witnessed firsthand in Venezuela how the country's election software manipulates votes without leaving a trace. They also allege that Dominion Voting Systems, which is used in nearly 30 states in the U.S., uses the software developed by Smartmatic Electronic Voting Systems, which, they argue, was designed to manipulate votes. The whistleblower says they worked with the National Security Guard of the Venezuelan president. The affidavit outlines an alleged conspiracy between Smartmatic executives, former Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and the country's election officials to ensure Chavez won re-election and retained power. The whistleblower said they were present at multiple meetings with Smartmatic executives and Chavez. The whistleblower claims that after the creation and inception of Smartmatic software, Chavez never lost any election. In fact, he was able to ensure wins for himself, his party, congresspersons, and mayors from townships. They claim that Dominion software and systems share the same makeup as Smartmatic's. The affidavit states, Dominion uses the same methods and fundamentally same software design for the storage, transfer, and computation of voter identification data and voting data. Dominion and Smartmatic did business together. The software, hardware, and system have the same fundamental flaws, which allow multiple opportunities to corrupt the data and mask the process in a way that the average person cannot detect any fraud or manipulation. Dominion Voting Systems last week denied claims about alleged software issues. The whistleblower also outlined how the voting software manipulates the votes and provided examples of votes being flipped in Venezuelan elections. Joe Biden recently appointed the chairman of Smartmatic, Peter Neffinger, to his transition team for the Department of Homeland Security. Though its headquarters is now in London, Smartmatic has never fully let go of its Venezuelan ties. Two of the Venezuelan founders still retain the two top management positions in the company. Reporting by Grace Coulter, NTD News.
The chairman of the Federal Election Commission said he believes Sidney Powell's claim of widespread election fraud. FEC Chairman Traynor said Powell has been honest in all of her cases, so he believes what she's alleging. This comes after Powell said she has mounting evidence of voter fraud and other irregularities. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more.
The Federal Election Commission Chairman Trey Traynor and Trump campaign advisor Corey Lewandowski agree on at least one thing. They both believe Sidney Powell's claim of systematic election fraud is valid. Lewandowski told the Water Cooler podcast that Powell is a professional attorney and he doesn't doubt her if she says she has evidence. Sidney Powell is an attorney on Trump's legal team. She told Fox News about what she calls an insidious and corrupt system surrounding the use of Dominion Voting Systems and its Smartmatic software. She said, "We're collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software." Several Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, investigated Dominion Voting Systems last December. They were concerned about the integrity of elections since Dominion and other election software companies have ties to private industry. Powell said she's furious at the government for ignoring complaints from Democrats about the potential corruption in this software. She is concerned that the CIA may have used the software for its own benefit and called for CIA Director Gina Haspel's removal. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
Just being another error in what was a very frustrating week for Pulaski County election commissioners. Now, the discovery ended up just being a simple case of mistaken identity hours after fraught discussion and tense arguments when it turns out all of those missing ballots were just simply put in the...
And so it's critical that we hold China accountable. It's critical that we get the facts, and that's what the China Task Force did. Went and got the facts so that the rest of the world could see what really happened. Why Speaker Pelosi pulled back and would not be a part of this task force is an important question I think ought to be asked to her. Why won't Speaker Pelosi hold China accountable? Well, while they won't, our leader, Kevin McCarthy, said we as Republicans will hold China accountable. We all ought to have the facts. The American people want to know what happened.
Folks, we got some news out of Michigan, and this could be very significant from the Detroit. Well, actually, we'll go to Jenna Ellis first. Breaking this evening, the County Board of Canvassers in Wayne County, Michigan, refused to certify the election results. If the state board follows suit, the Republican state legislator will select the electors. Huge win for Donald Trump. Very, very interesting. They found major problems with, let's see here, absentee voting precincts didn't match the number of ballots cast. The imbalances between August and November are not an exact comparison, but look, there's a lot here, and we've got the perfect person, Sidney Powell, standing by, member of President Trump's legal team. Sidney, welcome, and I know you've been handling a lot of the Georgia situation in Dominion, but your reaction to the situation in Michigan, please.
Well, that's an excellent development, and I would expect the entire Michigan board to reject the counts from the ballots. The election could not have been more rigged than it was, and I think it also affected the race of Senator John James. The same patterns fall there. We're still doing statistical analysis of that race, but the math just doesn't add up for anything, and we know Dominion has a long history of rigging elections. That's what it was created to do to begin with. We've introduced the affidavit of a person who worked with Maduro, a high-ranking military officer who saw it all happen and explained how it worked. And it's out for the public to see on my Twitter feed at Sidney Powell #1. So don't tell me there's no evidence of fraud. We've got increasingly mounting evidence of significant fraud across multiple states that casts into question the validity of the elections in every swing state, including Nevada and Arizona and Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia. And it went beyond that, too.
You know, regarding Dominion, you've raised this, and we saw the letter last night. People like Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar have raised significant concerns about Dominion. Now they're trying to make it seem like a right-wing, wacko conspiracy concern, even though people like PBS were raising serious issues about Dominion just before the election. I heard you say today, Dominion, the software was actually designed to be hacked, and I'm looking at one of the agreements they had with the County of Santa Clara on this is a contract between them and Dominion. Item 226 allows staff to adjust tally based on review of scanned ballot images. Look, you're the lawyer. I'm no tech expert, but that sounds very, very funky to me.
And worse than that, it had a back door so it could be manipulated by anyone who could access it through that back door. And that was a deliberate feature. The affidavit of the young military officer we provided yesterday to the public explains how it was created for that very purpose. So Hugo Chavez would never lose another election. And he did not after that software was created. He won every single election, and then they exported it to Argentina and other countries in South America, and then they brought it here. And it's a foreign company no matter how you look at it. So they've already violated the president's order against foreign interference in our elections. Our votes were actually eventually counted in Barcelona, Spain, or Frankfurt, Germany on foreign servers. It's absolutely stunning. And what's really stunning is the effort that is being mounted against getting the truth out on this. But you have to realize that every tech company, every media company, every social media company, scads of globalist corporations have been doing business in countries with these dictators that have been installed through this rigged election system for decades. The corruption is actually worldwide. It is going to upset a countless number of elections across this country and around the world.
All right.
So we need to do that to get rid of the corruption.
It does make a lot of sense now how Joe Biden campaigned, i.e. not campaigning. Their team seemed to know something. If this is true about Dominion, and I suspect it is. By the way, okay, so we have these concerns. You've got your whistleblower. Who do you bring this to? What happens next? What body do you have to implore to take action?
Well, we can add a fraud claim to any of the states in which litigation has already been filed as soon as we can get the rest of the material together that I'm still in the process of collecting, because frankly, witnesses are coming forth every day that are fed up with the corruption in Dominion and in the states and the counties and the country. So we're intaking information at an amazing level of people who want to stop this and are absolutely fed up with it.
You mentioned
got the evidence from the own mouths of the guy who founded the company. I haven't even had a chance to get that out to the public yet. But they admit, the founder of the company admits he can change 1 million votes, no problem at all.
the founder of Dominion admitted a long time ago, recently to you. Tell us more, please.
Publicly. I will tweet out the video later and I'll tag you in it.
Please do, at Greg Kelly USA, if you don't mind. That's pretty wild. Oh, by the way, what can you tell us about, you mentioned the whistleblower. There is a whistleblower. Remember, whistleblowers who are against President Trump are hailed as heroes and deified. What can you tell us about this individual?
The one who gave us the affidavit?
Yes.
He was a high-ranking military officer. He was very close to Hugo Chavez. And he is just absolutely disgusted with what he's seen and was participating in when he was with Mr. Chavez. He saw how it all worked. He was at meetings where it was fully briefed. And he wants this country to not fall prey to the same corruption and tactics that were used in Venezuela.
And I'm sorry, is he an American military officer or a Venezuelan military officer?
He was a Venezuelan military officer. He lives in this country now.
All right. And you mentioned the CIA today. I heard you during a radio appearance. You want the CIA director fired. It seemed a little bit off topic and off message, but what's the tie-in, if you don't mind?
The tie-in is that there's no way these programs could have been run around the world to affect elections without the CIA. We also have had people disclose to us the whole hammer program that was created for the CIA and scorecard, which is essentially the same thing. It seems like every country has used something like this to do what it wants to do. Supposedly ours was invented to influence foreign elections, but that too could have been turned on this election. It's all part of the same part and parcel of government interference in elections to make choices against the will of the people. And the will of the people in this country was that Donald Trump win in a landslide. If we can get to the bottom of it, and I am determined to do that, I think we'll find he had at least 80 million votes. The only reason the glitches happened in the system was because he had so far many more votes than they had calculated in advance. Their algorithms wouldn't perform the functions they'd originally performed or were set to perform. They couldn't make up the vote count. He had gotten so many hundreds of thousands more than they planned. So that's when they had to stop the counting and come up with a way to backfill the votes or destroy votes for Trump while they fabricated votes for Biden.
Sidney Powell, who is a former federal prosecutor, by the way, spent 10 years working for the federal government. Good luck. And by the way, very quickly, you have evidence. It's coming in fast. There is a reason for not making it public, correct? I mean, you're going to have a hostile media picking it apart, possibly trying to destroy your case before you can even make it. Is that part of your thinking? Very briefly, if you don't mind.
Well, not really. It's a matter of collecting it in the right form and format to be admissible. And we have witnesses that are scared. We have witnesses that are afraid for their lives, afraid for their family. Back in Venezuela, there are all kinds of concerns. People have been threatened, and it's very serious. We're talking about trillions of dollars of worldwide wealth here that was all corrupt. And every force in the world except 80 million voters, we the people, and my little team seem to be against us.
Well, millions are praying for you and with you. And find her on Twitter. Least we can do. Sidney Powell 1 at Sidney Powell 1.
Thank you very much, Whip Scalise, and I want to join in thanking our leader, Kevin McCarthy, in putting this task force together, and the leader of the task force, Chairman McCall, in leading us, the staff who helped us make sure that in such a timely fashion we were able to put together a report that touches on every aspect of the threat this nation faces with respect to China. At a moment where we are facing, I think, what is a generational threat, it is too bad that the Democrats refused to join us on this report. As the leader said, 2/3 of the recommendations in here are bipartisan. And in order for us to defeat the threat from China, we've got to work in a bipartisan fashion. So we call on Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats once again to stop putting their personal political interest ahead of the interest of the security of this country and join us in helping to put in place some of these recommendations. I want to say just a few words specifically about the defense portion of this report. China is rapidly developing a military force that is capable of winning regional conflicts, and they are expanding their military footprint globally. China, the government of China and the Chinese Communist Party have gone to school on the United States. They've looked at our capabilities. They've looked at the particular assets that we have that enable us to project our power, that enable us to make sure that we maintain our military supremacy, and they have developed capabilities to counter those. In particular, this report points out the importance of sufficient continued funding for our Defense Department. We have heard repeatedly from the military leadership and the civilian leadership of the department over the course of many years that we must have 3 to 5% annual real growth increases in the defense budget in order to maintain our supremacy. And that was pre-COVID. It's crucially important that we continue that resource funding. We must modernize our nuclear triad. It's crucial to deterring the Chinese Communist Party. And we must also develop and field conventional capabilities that are critical to countering the Chinese Communist Party in the Indo-Pacific in particular. This includes ground-launched cruise and ballistic missiles. The People's Republic of China is now the leading theater-range missile power with both dual and conventional nuclear delivery capabilities. We must counter that. We must modernize our sea and air power. We must procure long-range precision fires and strategic fires. We have to build contested logistics capabilities, and we've got to develop new operational concepts, joint operational concepts that allow us to counter the threat, that allow us to truly do what's necessary to defend this country. Congress must fund military construction, pre-positioning, strategic airlift, tanker support, and surge capacity. And we must counter the Chinese Communist Party globally as it seeks to establish more robust logistics and basing infrastructure around the world as it seeks to project its own military power. In conclusion, it is very important for everyone to note that we are in the midst of a battle between freedom and totalitarianism. The question we all face is whether the United States and our allies will set the rules of the road into the future, or whether the Chinese Communist Party and that authoritarian, totalitarian regime will set the rules of the road. The proposals that we have offered in this report recognize the gravity and the significance of this moment that we face. And if followed, these proposals will help ensure that freedom and the U.S.-led global order